Cyberspace always looks so freaky.
Okay.
Welcome, Time Lords and Silly Hats, Matrix figments, and candidates for office to the 232nd episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 22nd of November 2017, and featuring The Deadly Assassin, written by Robert Holmes, and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor and Peter Pratt as the Master. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm down to the last 2 bottles of Crystal Pepsi in town.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
I'm Bacon Pies.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Who doesn't want turkey legs on their head?
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Normal view, normal view, normal view.
And Thomas Fireheart.
I must admit I'm surprised Bill showed restraint by not suggesting Matrix bumps for this week.
Will you take the red pill or the blue pill?
It occurred to me, but I decided to go against it.
Yeah,
There's one moment where it would particularly be useful, but it's kind of low-hanging fruit.
There's plenty of other chances for Matrix references anyway.
So, happy early Thanksgiving to all of our listeners in the United States.
Yeah.
VC's also giving us a Thanksgiving welcome in the chat.
Aaron and I have been invited to a Friendsgiving at a friend's place, which, by the way, he said that he is going to delay eating until after you get off work, Aaron. So I've got to pick her up from work. He's not a big turkey person, so he wasn't going to make turkey, but for me, it's bloody tradition. So I had to go get some turkey.
Right.
Thanksgiving is the best holiday meal.
I made a pie tonight, and then we're going to go over to his place right after she gets off work tomorrow so I can put down the pie and give him the bird.
Thanksgiving is the best holiday meal because it's poultry. Otherwise, around
yes.
my family, it's always ham, and I'm like, ugh.
Well, yeah, actually, ham I like. Usually ham is my food of choice because I don't re-eat turkey as much as I re-eat ham.
I'll reheat the hell out of turkey.
I didn't say reheat. I said re-eat. In other words, leftovers.
Yeah.
I will
same
eat
here.
turkey sandwiches, but God, I will eat the hell out of ham sandwiches.
Give me all the turkey.
Just
I don't
make sure
care for the
I have some
ham.
cheddar.
Last time we had a ham meal, I think it was Easter, and I barely ate more than one piece, and it's just like, I'm done.
Ham is good.
Well, it might also
Especially
be
Brian
because
Blessed.
it might also be because your family just can't cook ham right.
I don't know. Maybe. I would have to see what others try to attempt to do with it, but I'm not thrilled by it. Turkey, on the other hand, I absolutely love the turkey.
Thing is, turkey's usually the harder meal to make. I've botched a turkey a couple of times.
I actually, my cousin's husband cooked a turkey. They did a Thanksgiving dinner on Veterans Day, and it was one of the first times maybe 2 or 3 times in my life that I've had white meat turkey and it wasn't dry.
Yeah. My mother's trying spatchcocking this year. That's where you rip the spine out of the turkey and press it down and grill it.
Okay, I was expecting something slightly different, but okay, yeah. I'm like...
What were you expecting, Matt?
I was expecting actually what's it called, that monstrosity where you also put in duck and something else?
That's a turducken.
Turducken, yeah.
No.
Because I've seen someone actually make the turducken, and it's just like, Oh God.
I've always wanted to
Sell
try a
them.
turducken.
We
How
sell
do you
them at
grill a
work.
swordfish? You ask it a lot of tough questions.
Mm,
The thing is,
It's horrific because you rip out like 2 or 3 spines, stuff them in one another, and then stuff it in the oven. It's just like,
You have-
oh wow.
The trick to turduckens
I mean, you kill
is
them
to cook
first,
them.
Nat. Like the way
Well,
sounds like a
yeah,
fatality.
but still, like, wow. There's just.
the thing is,
now I'm
Have
just
you
like
seen
imagining
the
them
John
screaming
Tron
like
video where
as
he makes the
Daleks cram
turducken?
them inside each other.
Turduckens, you cook them very
Alright.
slowly.
they're also very dangerous because they're very easy to get bacteria.
Yeah.
Vixie
It
says he
sounds
doesn't
like a
eat
very
anything that starts with
unfortunate
the word
Pokemon.
turd.
I have a feeling some of our
Turducken, I
discussions are
choose
going to
you.
go on long today, so we may want to start the news.
Yeah,
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so tonight's show, we have the news, and there's a bit of news tonight. Like I said, Geek Talk, which we also have a lot of, because there was a lot of premieres and a lot of finales in the last week.
Yeah.
And there might be some extra stuff if we have time, but that depends.
I have
Probably not
no
going to
rant
push
this
it.
week, so that we're gonna skip the rant because
Mhm.
I honestly couldn't think of any.
Oh, you don't have a rant? I have a rant.
Oh God.
If I could do a comic book guy voice, I would have a rant.
Matt's rant.
Worst impression ever.
Worst impression ever.
All right, and then of course the 5-minute challenge, followed by the episode review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So on to the news, and we are starting with birthdays, in which Bill added more birthdays than I originally had.
Because you left out one of the biggest ones.
Yes, I know, and I don't know how I missed it, and it's still eating at me. So we go to the 18th of November, and the birthday of Miranda Rayson, who played Tallulah in the 10th Doctor Dalek two-parter Daleks Take Manhattan.
Oh, I didn't
and
get that
Evolution
one.
of the Daleks, and then went on to become a audio companion of the 6th Doctor, Constance Clark. She is currently in said role alongside Lisa Greenwood's Flip in the 6th Doctor main range. Next is the birthday, and this is the big one I missed. Showrunner Stephen Moffat turned 56 on the 18th. I still don't know how I missed that one. It just I must be mentally just omitting Moffat from anything I see.
Just blocking him out.
Yes, I'm just completely blocking him out at this
He's got
point.
such a succinct little bio. He's just a single line. Stephen Moffat, showrunner, 2010, 2017, turned 56.
That's because we started before I could find anything to type in there.
Yeah.
But we all know what Stephen.
Yeah, we talk about him every week. We know what he's doing.
We know
I am
who he
waiting
is.
for the Christmas special, so I can tap dance my way through the house, going, "Ding dong, the bastard's dead."
If you don't know what Stephen Moffat does, either you are living under a rock or why are you listening to this podcast?
If you haven't heard me curse Stephen Moffat repeatedly, threaten to kick him in the dick if I've ever seen him,
Then
are
you
not
must be
listened to
new
our-
here.
Yes, you must be new here.
You must be new here.
I
Hello,
don't
newbie.
I like Stephen Moffat as a writer. I don't like him as a showrunner.
Nope.
Also on the same day is Paul Jericho, who plays the Castellan from the 5th Doctor era. He turned 69. He counts as this because he played it in 2 separate audios, Arc of Infinity and the 5 Doctors. Same actor.
Audios? You mean ventures?
Or two different serials. Yeah. Sorry, somebody was making noise and it was distracting me.
I'm sorry. Will I make a noise? Okay. Be quiet.
You rustle a lot.
You rustle a lot. If you have a way to mute your mic when you're doing stuff like that, it'd be best.
Okay.
Paul does mostly stage work, so he hasn't been on television since 2014 when he was on Casualty. So, as far as we know, he's still at it.
Oh, by the way, did you know he was in Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah, I thought so, but that wasn't
He
really
was one of the pilots. Anyway.
Also, a posthumous birthday now to Trevor Baxter, who would have been 85 but died earlier this year at the age of 84. I think we all remember when that happened. It was right about the time we started our Jago and Lightfoot reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To quote Mr. Science Theater, one of the good dead ones.
Moving on to the next day, 19th of November, is the birthday of Catherine Kelly, Miss Quill from Class, turned 38. Since the failure of Class, Catherine has moved on to Sky TV and its series Strike Back. Also on the same day is William Russell, who anybody who's an old school Doctor Who fan knows played Ian Chesterton way back in the first days of Doctor Who. He turned 93. We haven't seen much of William recently. Though he's not retired, he might not be actively working.
He does seem to have turned over the reins of both Ian and the Doctor to the latest generation.
Yeah, I think
it does seem like he's quietly walked out.
Yeah, he hasn't. He's still listed as active on the British Actors Registry. So he's still able to go on stage and do stuff, but...
He's still able to do so if he wants to, but whether or not he can do so is the other question.
55th anniversary special, Coal Hill School. Come on.
And finally, the 21st November, we celebrate the birthday of Malcolm Hulke, the writer who would have been 93 but died in 1979 as 54. Anybody who's ever looked through the series of Target novels and everything know who Malcolm Hulke is.
If you've listened to our last month or so of reviews, we've mentioned him quite a few times.
Yes, he was very big in Doctor Who in the 70s.
He's very big in Doctor Who. He also did some other stuff before that, and also looking up images for him. Apparently, the government was certain for a while there that he might have been part of the Red Scare, but they found no evidence.
Yeah, a lot of his stories had a very anti-establishment feel to them.
Yep.
Well,
yeah,
and then I'm sure that made some people nervous, but there was no evidence, so they didn't do anything to him.
He might be considered one of the fathers of the dystopia movement in England.
Possibly.
He's also the father of many giant reptiles.
many giant reptiles.
Okay, so that's the end of our birthdays. From here, we go to Lost Stories. Aaron?
Okay, so let's continue on to here. We've got a lost story. Rodney Bews has passed away. He passed away at the age of 79, just short of the decent run there.
Just shy of it.
For Doctor Who, in 1984, he played Stein. In Resurrection of the Daleks, which is, of course, the Fifth Doctor story. And he was best known for playing Bob Ferris in the 1960s, The Likely Lads, and Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads. Which is interesting because his co-star there, the other half of the Likely Lads, apparently they were so convincing on screen to be friendly and everything like that everyone just assumed that they got along really well, and apparently they actually hated each other.
That's actually not that uncommon.
It's not uncommon, but this was uncommon in just the depth of the hatred. Like, apparently Bews gave an interview where he talked about this guy and this guy's wife. That created a rift that just never healed, according to the article. He tried to call his co-star to apologize, but the guy hung up on him and never talked to him again. So
it's not unheard of. I mean,
it happens. I mean, we've heard about Red Dwarf, the Red Dwarf crew having problems.
They've apparently made up, though. But...
They've apparently made up since then, yeah, because they've been regularly at it now. As often as they can.
And I'm pretty sure that all of them also know that there's not much left to their careers.
So it's like, you know what, Red Dwarf, we're making some more money. Red Dwarf, yes.
Yeah,
keeping food on the table, yes.
Craig Charles and Chris Berry just hated each other on Red Dwarf.
At least towards the end there, yeah.
Anyway, if you don't know who Rodney Bews played, he played Stein. That was the traitor, the one that was like sided with the Doctor and them for like the first 2/3 of the serial, and then turned on him. Yeah,
happens.
Same guy, and I think actually got turned back because it discovered he was under mind control.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. I've been racking my brain trying to remember which one he was. It's like, okay, that one. Right.
Mm-hmm. That would be who it was. Yes.
Mm,
So
He was actually pretty good in that
actor's-
role.
Yeah, he was, and unfortunately, he's gone now. All right. So let's move on to our episode news, and we do have some future episode news.
Yes, future episodes from the future will affect you in the future. There's been a Twice Upon a Time preview released by the BBC. It shows the First Doctor entering the TARDIS of the 12th Doctor and being less than enthused about what he sees.
Yeah, this is the Children in Need special that we were talking about a week or so ago.
The clip that they released, yeah.
Yep, and this is the official. They've released it now as the preview.
Yep.
It looks pretty good from what I saw. It was
Yeah,
an
this
enjoyable little
is shaping up to be pretty good already so far.
Good. I like the interaction between the First and the 12th Doctor, and the 12th Doctor giving the First Doctor advice.
Yes, and they brought Snap back, which I thought was going to stay in the classic era, but they did bring it back.
And you know, he is believable enough as the First Doctor for me.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
very
know
much
it's
so.
not Hartnell, but I can still buy it.
Yeah.
I'm still on the fence as to whether he's playing season 1 or season 4 Hartnell, and that concerns me a little bit.
I don't think it's season 1.
It's not.
He's not as cold as or as harsh as
terrible
season
episode,
1.
But he seems, and I mean, it's been a little while since I've watched season 3, so maybe the differences are kind of exaggerated in my mind. That's entirely possible. But he still seems to be a bit more on the season 1 and 2 side. But we haven't seen a lot of the episode yet, so either way, it could be completely off.
Personality didn't change that much between seasons of the Doctor. He was
still restful man no matter what.
It was just where his boundary was changed.
He wasn't very crotchety with Vicky. He was, but yeah, it might be more based on the companion than the season.
I think he wasn't crotchety with Vicky because he was missing Susan.
Yeah.
But I think when he was under Ben and Polly and Stephen and Dodo,
right.
I think
that
he was
might be the case.
A little bit more snappish and yeah. So anyway, this looks good. I'm looking forward to that. I am still a little bit worried about the rest of the episode because of the fact that Stephen Moffat wrote this under the gun.
Yeah.
And he's not good at writing under the gun.
But it looks like so far there's nothing else. The 2 Doctors will make up for some of it.
So let's move on. I believe you have a couple more articles.
Yep, this is from Radio Times. There's going to be a contest to see the episode Twice Upon a Time a bit early before its official premiere. Now, the catch is that this is only in the north of England, and if you see it early, it'll be the episode minus the last scene, which is the scene with Jodie Whittaker.
Which we know is filmed, so it's probably more to avoid leak. Well, actually, it could be that they're still doing post.
It could be that they're doing post, and that's the last thing they'll do post on. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. Either that, or that they don't want it to hit the internet just yet.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Is that I bet they're really worried about somebody recording it and bootlegging it,
which we know that somebody would do.
Oh yeah.
There's a series of screenings in places called Hartlepool Town Hall and the Guild Hall and Jubilee Church and Durham School. And it says tickets for the screenings will be allocated by a random draw of those who apply. And 45% are going to local post codes, 45% going to the surrounding county, and 10% available to the rest of the United Kingdom.
So that means, of course, for people that are actually willing to drive up to the north to see this, and there's a lot of Doctor Who fans that can. I mean, England's not much bigger than the state of Illinois. So that's maybe a 4-hour drive.
At worst, yeah.
But would you be willing to drive to see an incomplete episode?
There's a lot of Doctor Who fans, hardcore fans that would.
They would go up there just to at least see most of it ahead of time. Anyway,
This is one of those things that could be very cool for the BBC, or they could wind up shooting it in the foot. We don't know yet.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Anyway, more news on the Sun. They've released photographs of Jodie Whittaker on set, and on set filming her part in Twice Upon a Time, and it shows Jodie Whittaker not in the outfit that has gained so much buzz, but in Peter Capaldi's outfit. So I'm guessing this is like immediately after Regeneration.
Yeah, this is probably the season premiere.
I don't think we'll see that outfit until
probably like
her
the
first
last
solo episode
10,
next
15
year.
minutes. No, what's that?
I don't think we'll see the episode from that picture we were sharing until her first solo episode.
Yeah, this is filming for that first solo episode. This is season 11 filming, Bill.
Oh,
but remember the fact that it's not often that you get the new costume immediately after the character regenerates.
Right.
There's usually like 90% of an episode where they walk around in the previous person's costume.
Right.
And they start to feel themselves out like, what am I going, and why do I have this on?
Or in David Tennant's case, 90% of the episode spent in PJs.
Sleeping it off.
Because remember, Matt Smith spent most of the 11th hour in the remains of David Tennant's outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Capaldi spent a bit of time in
Deep Breath. I think he was mostly in Matt Smith's clothes.
Mm-hmm. And then a bum's jacket.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That he traded
I
with
must
his
say,
favorite watch.
Jodie Whittaker is rocking Peter Capaldi's outfit. She looks good in that.
She really does.
Yeah. I was thinking that too when I first saw it. It's like, oh, I actually like this outfit. Oh, wait, this is Peter Capaldi's outfit, isn't it?
Yeah, she wears that with authority.
I'm surprised she wants to get rid of it so quickly. I would have made adjustments, but...
And to be honest, for me, if they'd had Jodie Whittaker wear something like this, I would have been all for it.
Yeah. Like I said, have her do a little adjustments to it to make it fit her better.
Yeah. It's not a coat of many colors, so...
Although I do envy
question
that coat.
marks.
That coat stands out in a crowd, man. Maybe
You
not
know,
for all the
which
right
is
reasons.
Sometimes not a good thing.
I went
How
to
not to be seen. Don't wear the coat.
I went to one of the Doctor Who showings that they had at Point Cinema, and somebody was in that coat.
Of course.
That coat is
There's
somewhere in
always
Madison.
somebody.
All right, so that concludes our episode news, and now we have some cast and crew news. And some fairly big news, too. I believe you're on this, Bill?
Yes, I am. So our first one is that a major name who's been with the show since 2005 is leaving. And he's had quite a major role in setting the tone of the show, and that would be composer Murray Gold, who has done most, if not all, of the main theme and incidental music for Doctor Who over the past 13 years now.
If it wasn't a pop rock song,
Yeah.
Murray Gold made it.
Mm-hmm.
So, he didn't do Tainted Love or Toxic or, any of those.
That cover that they did on the Orient Express, do you know if he did that or not?
No.
'Cause that
No,
wasn't an
the
original,
singer
I think.
that sung it actually wrote it.
Rewrote it for herself,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So that was the music she used. Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
gotcha. But yeah, there's not an explicit reason other than that it appears to be part of the whole general turnover of crew. It's not specifically like Douglas Adams, where they're like, "Oh well, you don't fit the tone of the show. We're
Yeah,
kicking
get
you
out of
out."
here.
It just kind of says that he's no longer going to be with the show. Whether it does not appear that Gold made the decision unless something changed since his last statement. So Chibnall probably decided that.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that because this does feel a little John Nathan Turner draconian.
A little.
A little, but at the
where
same
he
time,
did start
I
firing
think
people just because he wanted new faces.
Mhm.
at the same
I'm-
time though, Murray Gold's been on the show for so long. I haven't really heard any real decent music out of him in a while, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's not been horrible music by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not hit that hard since like the 11th Doctor.
yeah. The 12th Doctor era music was always a bit lax, in my opinion.
I am wondering if we're going to see an announcement that Olafur Arnolds from Broadchurch is now going to be doing the music.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise me at this point, since so many of them are crossing over. Apparently,
Right.
He's basically taking the Broadchurch staff and just populating Doctor Who with it, which also
taking all the
worries
broad
me.
church people and just going, here, let's do Doctor Who now.
I'm
And
a little worried about that.
A note that
Yeah.
Coldbox mentions is that apparently they've known about this for a while, but nobody wanted to go on record. But since the Mirror published a piece on it, they decided to go ahead and post it, even though their sources aren't going on the record. So
Okay.
this is true, even though it is partially inspired by the Mirror.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Alright.
and as
It's
I
been
stated,
making
he
the
got
rounds.
sacked. He didn't get sacked for anything he did wrong. They just basically said, "Yeah, we don't want you. You're done."
I think we're done with you this year. We'll try out something else new. We'll talk to you later, Murray, if we feel
Yeah,
like it.
and I think I had said a couple seasons ago. I think when series 8 came out, I think I was the one that said I think Murray Gold's starting to burn out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I think you're the
Since
first one to
then,
say it,
there
and then after the year or so, I'm like, yeah, he's not catching as hard. He's not clicking as good.
I think some of the strongest scenes that's in the 12th Doctor era, they used 11th Doctor music.
music
Pretty
for-
much, yeah.
because, well, it's kind of hard to top I Am the Doctor. It is probably one of the
It's hard
greatest
if that's
pieces-
your like your big crescendo, yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of one of the greatest pieces of music ever written for Doctor Who. Other than
Outside
theme
of the
song.
main theme, yeah.
Speaking of which,
Speaking of music, yes.
Swoosh.
We've got a few yeah, well, I guess they're both the correct way to pronounce it, but posthumous awards going out to some Doctor Who alums, starting with Delia Derbyshire, who did the original Doctor Who theme back in 1963. This is an honorary PhD, and this article doesn't. Okay. By Coventry University for her contributions to electronic music.
Mhm. And one of those in particular is the Doctor Who theme song,
Right.
which basically was the bleeding cutting edge when it came out.
No one had heard anything like it, and it took a long time for anyone else to be able to copy it.
Yep. I mean, these days you could do that same tone with,
Your basic
Easy.
synthesizer, yeah.
yeah, but
Back then,
At the
though,
time.
whoo!
yeah, that's just
Trying to see if the article included a list of her other works, but mainly I'm just seeing a lot of tweets and fan art.
well. The thing is, after she did a couple of other works, but nothing major. At one point, she was asked to do backing sounds for the Beatles yesterday, but I don't know if that ever materialized.
It could have in a variant or something, but yeah.
But every time she kept trying to express herself, she kept hitting a glass ceiling. And
Especially back then.
Eventually, she got just disillusioned and left the music business. Became a radio operator, and then a museum curator, and then worked in a bookstore. That's kind of a sad story to the person that created arguably the greatest television theme ever created.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm sure it didn't help her much either that some of her attempts to redo the theme didn't turn out so hot either.
I mean, she only had a couple of attempts to redo it. The problem is she hit absolute perfection.
Yeah, she had perfection the first time, and her attempts to retweak it, even she had to go, eh.
Sort of like what we're talking about with Murray Gold.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Where you kind of hit your top, and after that there's no place to go but down.
It's hard to be a one-hit wonder, but it's not the worst thing to happen to you,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't remember, who wrote the Lonely Man theme from The Incredible Hulk. Did he ever do anything of note after that?
Let me look.
Meanwhile, Bill, if you want to move on to the next article.
All right, so continuing with our posthumous awards, we have the BBC Audio Drama Awards have announced their shortlist for 2018. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, no Doctor Who audio dramas were mentioned, so we won't spend much time on this. But a Doctor Who alumni has, and this would be the late John Hurt, for his was nominated for Best Actor in an Audio Drama for his work in Chapter 1 of Big Finish's The Invisible Man. So almost Doctor Who, but just far enough removed. That, of course, would be the adaptation of the H.G. Wells novel.
All right.
And
that's cool. I'm wondering if they're nominating it because it was so good, or if they're nominating it because the actor died.
I heard good things about it, but I'm not really familiar enough with that piece to really comment beyond that.
Yeah, I know. It's just something that's been wondering me about that kind of thing. Ever since Heath Ledger won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for The Dark Knight. I've always wondered that if he hadn't died shortly after making the movie, if he would have been nominated and won.
And there's also things like that where they may not have explicitly said, okay, we're going to nominate him because he died, but that might have elevated the role, like in the minds of the listeners, just saying, because they're already feeling fondly about him. They're saying, oh wow, it's really good, even if it's standard. Like Heath Ledger's Joker was okay, but it did get an overwhelming amount of praise after he died, and I think that's an example of that.
And there's a basic rule in Hollywood.
Oh,
Comic book movies don't win Academy Awards. That's a basic rule of Hollywood.
A bad rule, but
it's a bad rule, but it's true.
Sad.
You haven't seen anything in the MCU win awards other than visual effects, I think.
Well, Heath Ledger won.
That's what we're talking about.
Well, I'm just reiterating that.
So I found out who the guy is.
Okay.
His name is Joe Harnell.
Mm-hmm.
He started doing pop music in the 1950s. 1960s and 70s, he moved out to Hollywood and started doing music for TV and film. His first compositions were for The Bionic Woman. He then did the Incredible Hulk Lonely Man theme. He also did Alien Nation, V, Enemy, and won Emmy nominations for it.
Huh. He won them, but those are not themes I remember.
Or received Emmy nominations.
They're not themes that stick in my head. The Lonely Man theme, I can frickin'.
I can hear the drum beat of V in my head, but I loved V. So he went on to do several shows into the 80s until I assume he passed on. Let me see here. Without checking when he passed on. Actually, he passed on in 2002, so yeah, he probably went to retirement in the 80s.
All right.
So our final piece on cast and crew news is a bit of an interview that Mark Gatiss did with the Financial Times.
Weird choice.
Yep. The full interview is hidden behind a paywall, but Cultbox has gotten a few choice bits.
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically talking about, I guess he was asked about Jodie Whittaker's casting. He says, I think there should have been a female Doctor Who a long time ago. He mentions that up to a certain point in the show's history, it would have felt a bit like a novelty. He adds, the industry is, as we know, inherently sexist. There is a cutoff point for actresses, which appears to be now 23 when they're deemed too old and have to wait until they're playing Lady Bracknell. He also mentioned that he would love to write more for women, but the problem is you might feel slightly hidebound about what people demand you to do, and he doesn't want to think it should probably be a woman.
The thing is, we don't want to see Gatiss write more for women, because I don't think he does it well.
I mean, yeah, I don't think his Sherlock has been particularly praised for its depiction of women.
No, and I'm trying to remember his characters from, the various Gatiss Doctor Who's, and I don't remember.
The main one that stands out to me is the Victorian woman who thinks it's scandalous that Rose goes to the shop and watches boys.
Was that him? I thought that was Moffat.
That was Evil Because I'm Evil. And
Crimson Horror?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Gatiss, I think you're shoehorning some stuff in there.
Gatiss is flapping his gums and needs to stop.
I mean, that said, I don't think he's specifically bad at writing women. I just think that his writing style is of similar quality across both genders. I don't think he's
particularly.
that
You
are
don't think he
amazing
should stop
characters
writing
either.
for women. You think he should just stop writing.
I mean, I think he's of a higher minimum quality than some writers. So I don't think he's one of the worst writers in show business. I just don't think he's, the first pick for anything I could think of. He's not something where I would think, oh, who would be my dream writer? Oh, Mark Gatiss. I can't think of any projects that would be the answer.
At the same time, the quote on its own, there should have been a female Doctor years ago. Some fans would agree with that. But it was a matter of getting the right place, right time, and a right actress. And we'll see how this fares.
Okay, I apparently lost you guys for a moment.
No, I think Matt was gone for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Oh. I was saying that the phrase in of itself, there should have been a female Doctor, a lot of fans would agree with that, but it's been a matter of right time, right place for that. Because we don't want to force it on a newcomer and get over their heads.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's partially been what he was saying about a novelty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking, though, that Gatiss should stick to historical dramatization, because apparently he rocks at those.
If anything, yeah. He's good at historical parts. Not so much characters. Hello? God damn. I take it that we're still on Vixie, because I'm not seeing anything else.
And BBC Worldwide has finally released a trailer for it. And I looked at it, and it looks fairly interesting. The audio, you really can't tell when the Doctor is the original audio from the Doctor's new audio. Unless he, spoke over his old, physical appearance, which I guess is possible. But
I don't think Tom's voice has changed all that much.
Not horribly much, no.
More rough. I can tell it's a little bit more rough and a little bit older, a little bit deeper.
Yeah. But he always had a very deep voice, so it's not enough to
completely dismantle it.
Yeah, I didn't see it when it was transitioning in there. And the fact that it, goes from real to animation, well, we're used to that. Having watched, some of these episodes that they had to remake in animation.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the first full color episode they'll have done that with.
Well, yeah, because it's the only one that's missing chunks.
Right.
Mm.
Most of the other color episodes are complete. And Shada was only ever partially filmed.
Right.
So they needed the animation to cover the sections that weren't.
Did
But
the
this-
original season 23, did that ever start filming? Or did it only have scripts?
No, it never started.
Hmm.
They got put on hiatus.
Right. Okay.
Also, I love seeing animated K9.
And I think K9 has a lot to do in the story, too.
Yes, that's like partially why they had such a hard time shooting. Outside of the other things that came down on them, they had to shoot a lot of stuff around K9.
Yeah, well, that was always the issue with K9 in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Which means the animation will actually do a lot more with him.
in the Mark II era, that damn dog was always breaking down too. And I'm not just talking about as script stuff. I'm talking about the prop kept breaking down.
The prop broke down. The prop would have this issue, that issue, and the next issue, to the point that they literally had to pull him on a rope down a track.
Yeah. The thing is, in the early days, the Mark I was actually more reliable. But it had other problems, like, having trouble getting up angles and that kind of thing, or inclines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It didn't. The prop itself didn't have enough power.
It didn't have enough power, and then they made the second prop, which had different signals, and it messed with everything.
Yeah, it kept fucking up everything.
It had the power, but everything else suddenly flip-flopped.
Of course, now with them doing some of the stuff in animation, they don't have to worry about that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing this when it comes out. And I think this will be the final definitive version of Shada.
Finally, yes.
I think so.
After like 4
Yeah.
versions now.
Yes, after this, there will be no more. They won't have to worry about remaking Shada ever again.
And I
It's
don't
part
think
of
they're ever going to
continuity.
get lookalikes and go back and refilm every episode. So I think that's a little beyond the scope of the BBC.
Mm-hmm. So I can't wait for this to come out. It looks good. Can't wait for it. We'll move on now to books.
All right, so I'm just looking up quick the character that is referenced in this. I found him on TARDIS Wiki. Okay, so let's continue on. Candy Jar Books has announced that instead of releasing the title Day of the Intelligence, I believe the title has been changed, or they say it's canceled here, but it may have been changed, and it's going to say now Travers and Welles.
No, this is a separate story.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is a separate story. So the
Yes.
actual Day of the Intelligence title has been canceled.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah,
and then of
they
course,
had announced it earlier, and I guess they hit writing issues or whatever.
I wonder if it's because I think Big Finish is. Oh no, well, yeah, I think Big Finish is using them. I don't know if that caused a conflict.
I don't think so.
Wouldn't think
But
so,
I'm-
but I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Mhm.
I'm thinking they just might have had issues with the writer.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Well,
and-
we do know that this
Probably more likely.
this title has had issues with the writer as well. And let me get to the synopsis quick. For Travers and Welles, Edward Travers pulled out of time by a mysterious force, finds himself on a hill with a young man called Herbert George Wells. Together, the men travel across England, intent on discovering where they are. A world distinctly different from the one they know, and yet for Edward Travers, it is one that seems vaguely familiar, for strange meteor objects have landed in the heart of England, and the inhabitants of Earth have found themselves victims of a terrible attack. A ruthless race of Martians, armed with heat rays and poisonous smoke, is intent on destroying everything that stands in its way. Only things have not turned out the way Travers expected. For this is not the War of the Worlds H.G. Wells wrote about, but something much worse. And so, of course, this features Edward Travers teaming up with the grandfather of sci-fi H.G. Wells.
That would be Professor Travers, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yes, this is Professor Travers. So, the CB as a British anthropologist and explorer. Let me see here. He played in the serials The Abominable Snowman, And there's a whole list of his appearances actually.
Yeah,
The other one would
He's
have
the
been
professor. Yeah. Web of
blanking on
Fear.
the name. Web of Fear. That's what I was thinking.
And then he was also in the direct-to-video Downtime. And he's appeared in several novels. He's a regular for the Lethbridge Stewart. He was in the Schizoid Earth and a bunch of other stuff. Night of the Intelligence.
Yeah, but the main actual canon Doctor Who appearances is the Abominable Snowman and Web of Fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the professor who keeps showing up in that.
And I believe he was meant to appear in the Invasion, but it didn't work out.
It didn't work out with the actor, so they had to bring in a different character with the same idea.
All right, so due to scheduling conflicts, Andy Frankham Allen, who was originally editing this story, had to hand over writing duties to Robert Mamon, who previously wrote the short story Eve of the Fomorians, and at first had written a kind of prologue called Time and Again, and that was published into the first novella, The Life of Evans. So this is the third novella, I believe?
Yes. Third
Yes.
volume of their novella series.
Yeah, and you can get all of them from Candy Jar Books. The novella obviously being a shorter version of a novel. I believe it's supposed to be 100 pages or less in order to qualify as a novella.
Okay, and they're including it on the Lethbridge Stewart website. Okay.
So.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to compare their experiences with different incarnations of the Doctor.
All right. So that takes us from books to Big Finish news.
Yes, Big Finish. We have an out now from the Early Adventures range called The Morton Legacy. It's a new story starring Anarchy Wills, Fraser Hines, and Elliot Chapman. I hope I said that right.
That sounded good enough.
All right. When the TARDIS lands in London, Ben and Polly are initially delighted to be back home, until they realize that they're 100 years too early. But this is nothing next to how the Doctor and Jamie feel when the TARDIS itself vanishes. Their attempts to locate their ship lead them to an antiquarian, Josiah Morton, possessed of a most unusual collection that is currently subjected to a legal dispute. But they're not the only people interested in him. Dangerous criminals watch from the shadows, waiting for a moment to strike. And the police are calling too, accusing him of murder. An unusual series of deaths have been occurring across the capital, and all signs point to Morton as the culprit. But is he really a killer? Or is there something else at large in the city? Something alien.
Dun dun dun!
You can get this Early Adventures today on CD for $14.99 or download at £12.99. And don't forget that all CD purchases unlock a download option with the Big Finish app and the Big Finish website.
All right.
And then moving on to more Big Finish news. Coming out soon is a Short Trips in June 2018, where Sean Carlson plays Time Lord Narvin in Erasure. It's set during the time that the Fourth Doctor was traveling with Adric, and Narvin regales us with a tale from the depths of Gallifrey's history.
This would be Narvin from the Gallifrey.
Gallifrey.
From the Gallifrey series? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And fans will recognize Narvin from his adventures with Leela, President Romana, and Ace, and Dark Eyes 3 with the Eighth Doctor. And he'll also be in the upcoming release Gallifrey Time War.
Yep, Time War from Gallifrey's point of view.
Yes, and we have a little story blurb. The Celestial Intervention Agency, a shadowy, unspoken of part of the Time Lord hierarchy, beloved and loathed in equal measure by various presidents and high councils, the millennia is over, but they serve a very important function. They keep the timelines safe and clear. They do the darker, dirtier jobs than most Time Lords would prefer not to know even need doing. CIA Sub-Coordinator Narvin has always taken his oath to uphold the worshipful law of Gallifrey very seriously. But when he is sent out on a mission to investigate the planet Beliscon, even he hasn't reckoned with the force of nature that is the Fourth Doctor, who has, one might say, his own way of dealing with things and his own views on people like Narvin. But somehow the two must overcome their instincts and work together to stop the web of time being erased forever, forever, forever.
All right. Yes, the CIA, the Section 31 of Gallifrey.
I'm sorry, I wanted to say something really quick, Tim. What an eccentric performance.
Yeah, I threw in a reference to the Sandlot, if you noticed.
Mm-hmm. So
All
anyway.
right, moving on.
Moving on, Patsy Kensit is going to be in Doctor Who The Main Range releases. This is the opening story of 2018 is Doctor Who Kingdom of Lies. Patsy Kensit will star alongside Peter Davison's Fifth Doctor and will cross swords with the companions Tegan, Nyssa, and Adric. The identity of Patsy's character is being kept under wraps, but Barney Edwards gives us a hint. I can tell you three things. She's sassy, she's deadly, and she's partly cybernetic. On the planet Cicero Prime, the kingdom of Cardenas is divided, with the whole population forced to swear allegiance to either the effete Duke or the fiery, hard-edged Duchess. This is a situation both parties have grown tired of. What use is half a kingdom when, thanks to a carefully engineered murder, could have it all? Surely none of them would be rash enough to summon the deadly off-world assassin, the Scorpion, to help with their problems. They would be rash enough, and don't call me Shirley. And surely this terrifying figure wouldn't arrive wearing a long cream coat and striped trousers. I told you not to call me Shirley.
All right.
All right, and moving on, we have this article is a bit misleading. It says the headline is War Master in Unit, but from what I understand, Derek Jacobi is not playing the War Master in this Big Finish. Is that right?
As far
He
as
is
we're
supposedly
aware,
not.
the article itself reads like he is, but then there was a Facebook post that came out of Big Finish the day after this came out on the 21st, so yesterday, that basically said, correction, it is not the War Master in the upcoming Unit Series 6, or
Yes.
Unit 6. It's, he is playing the scientific advisor.
They say that, and then I look at the title for number 4, and I'm
Yes.
just not buying it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not buying
Yeah.
that. This was accidentally them going oops and then trying to cover it.
I
Guarantee
think
it.
that's the equivalent of saying, oh, Alex McQueen wasn't playing the Master in his Unit story either, wink wink.
So there's going to be 4 missions in this series called Unit Cyber Reality. There's Game Theory by Matt Fitton, Telepresence by Guy Adams, Code Silver by Guy Adams, and Master of Worlds by Matt Fitton.
You see,
And-
I think they would have had better if they'd gotten John Sims. Just because that would make more sense. He does that, and when defeated, goes on to face
Right.
the 12th Doctor. But the War Master should be in a sealed portion of the Time War, should not be there.
True.
Welcome to Big Finish. We're not totally canon.
But that's just
Not totally.
Oh.
And that's just to add more confusion.
But it's not a game theory, it's an audio drama theory, so we can't
Nor is it a-
quite
well-
use that title.
It's not even appropriate to use film theory.
Right.
It's an audio theory. Thanks for
But it
listening.
also says that the Cybermen will be making an appearance in this story. 'Cause it
Code
says it
Silver.
stars Ingrid Oliver as Osgood, Ramon Tickram as Colonel Shindy, James Joyce as Josh Carter, Warren Brown as Sam Bishop, and with Nicholas Briggs as the Cybermen.
Of course. 'Cause that's
Code
Nick Craig's
Silver
job.
on the nosy.
To play a Dalek, to play a Cyberman, to play an alien. That's his job.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that pretty much confirms, people on Facebook are asking, are these classic Cybermen, are these new Cybermen? And just because it's a new the new unit crew, I'm guessing it's new Cybermen. But the
Probably.
one thing this does confirm is that it's not the 80s Cyber leader.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if he comes back, we're going to know.
Oh yes, we would know ahead of time. They would be tooting horns. It's like David Banks will appear in upcoming.
I think the title would be something like The War Master versus David Banks or something.
I would pay for that.
We shall crush him.
But that might crash their servers if they were to release such a momentous release.
All right.
That would only help them.
So,
if
yes,
BBC again, Big Finish, if you're
unit
listening,
drama.
you can send your money to.
Derek Jacobi faces off against David Banks. Okay, I gotta go change my pants now. All right, so our last piece of news there. Go ahead, Tim.
Excuse me. All right, so there's an incredible deal out coming soon. 99 titles for 99 pence. That's right. From Big Finish, the next 5 weeks, you can get 99 different adventures from the world of Doctor Who for only 99 pence per download. All you have to do is go to the page www.bigfinish.com/99 for 99 with the password red balloons.
99 just love balloons.
Since I have taken advantage of the sale, I'm just going to make a few comments. Yes, it is 99 cents in American dollars for American buyers, just like most download sales. Did someone just get sucked out the airlock?
I'm going to go to the bathroom quick, by the way. Be right back.
I think Tim's getting eaten by a Gru. I'm not certain. Or a pernicious canid.
So, if you have access to Spotify, you'd want to be very judicious in purchasing from this sale because probably 90 or so of the 99 are available on Spotify.
Which is probably why they put them on sale.
Right. And those are the ones that are already at a permanently lowered price. The ones that I personally saw that were not, assuming that Spotify hasn't been updated since I last checked anyway, are the remaining volumes of Dalek Empire, because all of Dalek Empire is part of this sale, which I picked up, and a few unit stories featuring Nicholas Courtney. So I purchased them for myself as well. But all of the others that I noticed are available on Spotify. So if you're a Spotify user, I would not go in and spend $50 on the sale.
All right. But if you are interested, you don't have access to Spotify, you want Big Finish audio, this is a good place to start.
Yep.
Each title $1. Can't do worse than that. All right. So that ends our news portion. And we're going to move on to the geek talk. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is that Aaron and I just finished watching Series 12 of Red Dwarf. So my thoughts on it after watching the entire season is the fact that it's not getting any worse. I mean, I loved Series 11 of Red Dwarf. I liked Series 10. I loved 11. 12 is just as good. They're at their funniest that they've been in years. And it looks like they're having fun doing it. You know, unlike, Series 8 where they were kind of phoning it in. They're enjoying themselves, and there were some cameos that appeared this season that were great. They got the actor that played Holly back to do a scene in a parallel universe. And it was a parody of a scene that we have known and I have quoted many a time. It's a scene from the first episode of Red Dwarf where the Holly goes, "Everybody's dead, Dave." And I've done that repeatedly, only this time he's talking to Rimmer, so it's "Everyone's alive, Arnold." It's great. It's a great scene because it's almost word for word And then they get the original captain of the Red Dwarf from like the first episode and series 8.
There's a lot of great cameos. In
Oh,
fact,
yeah.
there were a lot of good episodes in this season. So
Yeah, it was a really fun season. I quite enjoyed it. It is definitely worth watching. Rumors has it that season 13 is already being written, but it has not been officially greenlit yet. And in the meantime, they're planning a stage show in England. So
Red Dwarf with a budget and a stage show. Jeez.
Yep. It is. It's awesome, and the cast has never been more hysterical. Definitely, Red Dwarf is still alive and kicking. All right, from the uber funny to the uber serious. We're myself, Aaron, and Bill are going to talk about Marvel's The Punisher out on Netflix.
Woo!
I've seen it all. Aaron's seen most of it, and Bill, I think, just saw the first episode.
Yeah, I just saw the first.
So I've seen this, and I really like this series. The dynamic between the Punisher and the person he's forced to work with for a good chunk of the series, who Bill wouldn't know, but his name's Micro. He's a hacker. Is very
Is he
odd.
the person that shows up in the last, like the very last scene of the episode of
Yes.
the first episode?
Yes. And I might have just spoiled it a little for Bill, but he'll get over it. But anyway, they're forced to work together because they have a common goal, and they kind of need to rely on each other. But in the beginning, they don't like each other. Excuse me, I had a sudden sneeze come on.
I wasn't aware that there were people that Frank liked.
Yes, but this is, I mean, to the point where one of them is looking at the other and going, I completely hate you. But then, over the course of it, they bond, and the way they bond is completely and totally realistic. And I enjoy it. I enjoyed their interaction. I enjoyed the side characters. I enjoyed the story. I just really enjoyed almost everything about this. And I like the theme. And I might have to buy myself a t-shirt next month. Yes, I'm probably going to be wearing a Punisher t-shirt. So Aaron, you've seen the next most with only a couple episodes left. What do you think?
I thought it was I really like it. I mean, it is bloody. It is quite bloody.
Oh yes.
The Punisher, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah,
that's
if-
to be
if
expected
you're-
if you're going to be legit.
I know. But
If it
it's-
wasn't, people would be up in arms.
But I really like it because, like I said, I think MCU does espionage really well, and there's a lot of government conspiracies going on, a lot of people hiding out in the woods in camo, trying to avoid the government from spying on them and everything like that, and a lot of cover-ups, and there's, of course, you always have like the one good government agent that the Punisher can trust that he turns to, and I don't know, it's really intense.
I think they also portray PTSD very well through various characters.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple characters in here, all of which are vets, all of which have PTSD, and they all show it in very different ways.
Yeah, so I highly recommend it. It's probably my favorite MCU show out of Netflix in quite a while. Like I really liked Daredevil, and nothing Daredevil season of Daredevil has really kind of lived up to that, and I think this finally has me satisfied anyway as a watcher. So
yeah, the only thing I would put on that as a restriction is don't watch it if you're easily squicked out.
yeah.
If blood and limbs bending the wrong way squick you out, this will not be the show for you.
I think the last time a film squeaked me out was, I believe, the Texas Chainsaw remake.
Anyway, Bill, you've watched the first episode,
Okay.
which
So-
has probably one of the most epically rememberable fight scenes at the end of it.
Mhm.
Oh yes, I actually bought the music for that. It's Hell Broke Loose by Tom Waits. If you ever want to find that song.
So I was very skeptical about this series to the point where I wasn't sure if I was going to watch it, and this is because in Daredevil season 2, Punisher was sort of presented as this character that wasn't going to change, was never going to have an arc. He wasn't interested in changing, and there's as if there was really no story that could come from him. And I really like how the beginning of this episode, it sets him up. He's in after some action in the beginning as kind of necessary for this sort of series. He's in a new place. He's doing new things. He has some supporting characters, at least one that he's on decent terms with. And it sets up for a much more dynamic, much more interesting character than I was expecting. That can actually develop into a very good story, which is good. My biggest hope for the series is one that they're probably going to let me down on, but after the soundtracks of Luke Cage and The Defenders, I'm really hoping that there's some big pun in the Punisher series, because it would be the perfect homage to, the artist who named himself after the Punisher.
I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, I
but
figured.
we can talk after the podcast.
Right. In terms of the episode itself, I liked it. It wasn't, I don't know if I'd put it in like my top openings of all time or anything, but it's definitely interested me enough to continue watching, which is kind of more than I feared before clicking on it, until I saw all the positive reviews anyway. So it's done what it's meant to do as an opening. I'm going to continue watching it, and based on what I've heard, I'm going to enjoy it.
All right.
Cool. I get to wear my Punisher shirt more often now.
All right. So moving from the Punisher to another Marvel release on a streaming service, and that would be Marvel's Runaways, which hit Hulu Tuesday.
Yep.
And and unlike Netflix, which dumps the entire season on in one dumping, they dumped 3 episodes on Tuesday, and I think they're going to be doing one a week from there onwards.
Probably.
So I watched the first 3 episodes of Runaways, and I thought it was interesting. From what I can remember from the Runaways comics, they seem to be playing with only minor variations. I mean, some stuff did get changed, but that's not unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But it still seems to be playing it pretty close to the original script.
Molly looks like she's a lot older.
Well, yeah.
I heard that they cut out a major character.
Not that I've seen, but
I guess the leader in the comics doesn't appear in the show, from what I heard.
No, the leader in the comics is currently in the show. But if they're talking about somebody else, he might not show up until another volume, which would be anher.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's
For
probably
their
one of
thing,
those
yeah.
where there's
Actually,
different
no.
leaders in different eras.
No, the leader there's been 2 really main leaders of the Runaways. One of which is then they're both on the show right now. Later seasons, the leader is Nico, and the first season, the leader is Nico's boyfriend, and this the kid that brought them all back together.
Alex?
Alex, thank you.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say
maybe
anything else.
maybe the person making the comments was uninformed or something then. Okay.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if there was ever a point where Nico wasn't leading, or Nico, or whatever. But she's typically the main Runaways leader. No, from what I was reading up, all the characters seem to be there.
Okay.
Unless they're talking like the leader of the Pride, the adults bad guy group. but even there, I thought most of them looked good. I didn't see anybody missing. Very interesting was the fact that James Marsters, i.e. Spike, was playing one of the characters in this.
Yep. And
Oh, cool.
I don't think it's yeah, at least so far it's definitely, I would say, not a plot spoiler to say that I found it very ironic that the character that appeared as a time traveler in Torchwood is doing time travel experiments in his character in this show. No idea if that influences the plot in the future or not.
I didn't recognize him through the first episode. It wasn't until the second episode I recognized him. But then again, that's when we started getting into more of the adults' point of view.
Gotcha. Had you heard his real voice or just his?
I don't think I had.
Okay, see, I had heard a few interviews with him, so I would have recognized his voice in addition to his face.
Yeah, I don't remember many interviews with him, but I mostly remember him as doing Spike and doing John Hart. So
which was the same accent, I believe.
And doing Brainiac from Smallville. Which I think he also was doing with a British accent.
I wonder if he's going to do a Supergirl cameo then.
He might at some point. I mean, God.
Considering all the cameos they've been getting.
Would be interesting.
Anyway, I'm thoroughly enthused with this show and the fact that I'm going to keep watching it. Erin was trying to sleep when I was watching it, but I think she managed to watch it all.
Yeah, I watched at least the first 2 episodes, and I think I caught a good chunk of the third. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm kind of also puzzled because I guess it's the other Marvel property that's also on TV. It's other than The Gifted, which is of course owned by Fox, and this is being produced through Hulu and I think Disney Marvel. Anyway, people were comparing
I'm aware,
the two.
It's an MCU tie-in.
Yeah, people were comparing the two, but there's not really much comparison between the two. In fact, there's not much running away and runaways yet.
Yeah, I mean, they're both about superpowered teens, right?
Technically, no. Only 2 of the characters in The Gifted are teenagers. But mostly it's
The Gifted is mostly about mutants.
Gotcha.
It's the Resistance. I mean, the show's about the Resistance members, and most of them are adults.
Okay.
Yeah, like Polaris and stuff like
got
that.
you. Normally shows like that tend to start off with teens. I think I assumed that, or just because of all the X-Men comparisons I heard.
All the comparisons, yeah.
Now,
and
the upcoming
The Gifted
New
was
Mutants movie, that's going to be all teenagers.
Yeah. The Gifted, unfortunately, was compared unfavorably to the Runaways, and I don't think you can really compare it to the Runaways at all, other than the fact that they're both featuring Marvel characters or so.
Yeah.
That's about it, yeah.
Of course, my big question, something that's bothering me, is how they're going to explain one of the characters in the Runaways is actually in the comic book supposed to be a mutant. But this is going through the Disney Marvel MCU, and of course
they could easily just do Inhuman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll just label him as a human, just like Wanda.
Well, they don't show her getting exposed to Terrigen Mist or anything, which I still thought Inhumans needed to do.
True, but it could have been, she drank the water as a child or something. It's kind of weird.
Metahuman or something.
They do kind of almost place it in the future by they make a reference that sound like the Obama administration was some time ago as compared to very recent. So it's almost as if it's set like a year or 2 in the future.
In the not too distant future.
Yeah.
Be 20 minutes into the future.
Next Sunday AD.
Well, 20 minutes into the future, that was Max Headroom.
Yeah.
The beginning of every Max Headroom episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also could be they just simply don't explain it. I mean, the thing about the Runaways is that each one is technically a different origin. One of them's an alien, one of them's a mutant, one of them's a witch, one of them has no powers at all.
And it just occurred to me that the character that would make sense to be a mutant, she's getting her powers at the exact time that a mutant would.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I don't know if that
Mhm.
fits in with Inhuman lore at all or not.
Mm.
Okay.
So
Did you have-
what did you
Okay.
think of it, Bill?
So my first major thing that I noticed, and this is we've doing a Doctor Who podcast, we've gotten very adept at noticing, okay, this is 2 hours of story told in a 3 hour skin, and that's definitely how this came across to me. It's partially because about between a third and half of the runtime is dedicated to the antagonists. And because they have more interpersonal relationships with each, or more complex ones, it feels like they got more development than the actual Runaways did, which I think is definitely a flaw in an origin story that feels like it's an early episode. Like it feels like it's in episode 1 or 2 territory in terms of how well we know the main characters, but it's already 3 hours in.
It might have been also why they dumped all of it on at once.
Mm-hmm.
It also could be true that they're trying to get the backstory for the villains out of the way, so we can just focus on the
Yeah.
characters the rest of the
I
season.
would rather know more about the main characters at this stage in the show than know more about who they're up against.
Yin yang on that.
Yeah, mainly because the main characters are the ones driving us to keep going, and I'm going to continue watching, but I'm a little meh about that to the point where, because it's just I haven't seen enough of these main characters to really care about their relationship with one another and such, and so much of that just could have been in there but was pushed out of the way by drama between their parents. And
Well, my problem was when they introduced you to the characters in the first episode, like half of them or better were complete and total asshats.
yeah,
Like what's his case? The intelligent jock.
mm-hmm.
I still don't like him after the third episode. I don't like him.
Speaking of which, do we want to mention are we talking any spoilers at all?
No,
Okay,
I'm trying to keep it spoiler free.
gotcha. Because yeah, there's there's the way he deals with something really rubs me the wrong way.
We can talk after the podcast.
Mhm.
But no, he bothered me because of his assholeness, which continues through the thing. But a couple of the other characters, Alex, Nico, I understand why Nico's acting the way she is because apparently she lost a sister.
Right.
And that's not a spoiler because they reveal it like 10 minutes into the first episode.
Right.
It's
almost like it seems like it's the main plot of this 3-parter in terms of the reason why their relationship is the way it is.
And what is the younger one? Is that Katie, I think?
I'm not. I mean, that's part of the thing. I don't know these characters well enough to remember all of their names.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of them starts with a G, one of them is Nico, one of them is Alex, and that's all I remember.
Yeah, the social justice warrior I don't like either because of the social justice warriorness.
I know. I felt like I should like that girl a lot more than I did, and I just she irritates me.
Yeah, that was kind of my issue. Is I didn't like her. I didn't like the intelligent jock prick, but all the other characters I liked. So they've already grown on me, Bill. So I have to disagree with you there.
I really
All
like the
except for
younger
one.
girl.
All right. So just quick. I'd recommend it. Aaron, would you recommend it?
I would recommend it, at least just to check it out.
Bill, would you recommend it? Yes, no.
Yeah, yes, with caveats at this point.
Okay. So, yes, and 2 conditional yeses. That's Runaways. Okay, so going from television to movies, I'm trying to hurry this along because we're running behind.
Way behind now, yeah.
Yeah, Justice League. Aaron and I went to see Justice League yesterday, and I liked it. I didn't expect to like it, but that was not without its flaws. I mean, you could still feel the Zack Snyder stink on this movie. The person who receives the worst of it is Batman. Batfleck,
Mm.
who is dark and broody some of the time, but the times where Joss Whedon took him over, he's freaking George Clooney's Bruce Wayne. He's doing stuff that Batman shouldn't do. There's a scene where he and Aquaman are coming out of a bar talking, and apparently he's telling Aquaman all about his secret identity. In front of people.
I don't know when
Batman-
I'll stop.
Right. Batman, the character who, in Young Justice, not a single member of the team except for Robin knew his identity because he was that tight-lipped about
And he
it.
wouldn't let Robin know. He wouldn't let them know Robin's identity
That's true. Yep.
because it would reveal to him. He's fucking paranoid about his identity. He should have been doing this as Batman.
And
Do
of
we
course, if you
specifically know
recall,
that was a Whedon thing, though?
I'm pretty sure
I mean,
you can
that
kind
part-
of tell by the dialogue.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Mhm.
believe his meeting with Waller was also as Bruce Wayne, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So pretty much this entire universe's Batman doesn't give a fuck about his secret identity.
Which is wrong. It's really wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the core thing about Batman.
It's wrong and
is
stupid.
He's freaking paranoid.
He's paranoid, and he's also a master detective, and he's the one that knows everything.
So it's.
And
I
actually, that's
just
wrong
don't-
too in this universe, because Wonder Woman knows everything.
But either
Mhm.
way, it doesn't feel like Batman. Wonder Woman, speaking of which, is another character that kind of has a bipolar treatment. Because under Snyder's writing, she's kind of moping and brooding
Mhm.
over the loss of Steve Trevor, even though it happened decades ago.
Which is silly.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mm.
I mean, obviously, he'll always be something she don't remember, but she would have to move on eventually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And instead, she's stuck her head like an ostrich for, decades. And is only sticking out and is still brooding about it. No. Don't give everybody a reason to brood, Zack Snyder. And then Superman. Actually, Superman was most improved by the Joss Whedon writing. Because you could tell in the beginning when they're doing interviews before his death, he's still Zack Snyder's Superman. He's awkward when he speaks. He's always kind of looking in the sky for seconds at a time. He's acting completely and totally aloof. He's everything I hate about Zack Snyder's Superman. When you see him at the end of the episode, and this isn't a spoiler because they've mentioned it,
It's been teased, yes.
Yeah.
he's a lot more personable and approachable, and I can tell that's Whedon's work.
Could you notice the CGI though with the mustache removal thing that they had to do?
I didn't, but I really wasn't looking for it.
Hmm.
I was more paying attention to the dialogue pattern and everything being.
How was
okay, that's
Cyborg
Snyder,
CG-wise? That's my big one.
Cyborg was awesome.
Mhm.
Okay.
I like
Cyborg,
them, yeah.
Cyborg
they
is
finally
the
finished
best
him.
character in this show.
Cool.
He is-
Because I was worried because he was looking really clunky in the trailers still.
Oh, he
visually.
is because it's his early days.
Well, I don't even mean that. I mean visually.
Oh no, I mean it's supposed to be. It's the early days. The tech that they've used is still acclimating, so his appearance changes
No.
almost every scene as he's constantly self-upgrading.
Well, no, see, the problem I had is that he looked like he was PlayStation 2 graphics with a face
Not
cut
that
out.
I saw.
Because that's what I was seeing the entire time. So
No.
maybe they finally finished it. They just didn't use it in the trailers. Okay.
Yeah, he looked fine to me. But he is also the best acted because he is dark and brooding at the beginning,
Mhm.
but he should be.
He
Right,
should be
'cause
at
he had
first.
just
Yes,
been
that's
through a
typical of
life-changing
Cyborg.
accident,
Because
right?
this is days after waking up after being converted into a cyborg after his accident.
Mm-hmm.
He is miserable. He hates himself. And that's the way the character's supposed to be. But you watch him through there as he begins interacting with these other heroes and finds his place in the universe. And he becomes this better person.
Yep.
And he says one word that freaking made me cheer.
Hmm.
he at the end of it, when everybody's doing their victory thing, he looks at what they've done and he goes, "Booyah!" And I went, "Yes, thank you." It's one thing I wanted when they had him in what was it? Some of the more modern stuff I've seen Cyborg in. Like
the animated stuff.
Justice League
Yeah, the
animated
DC
movies?
animated stuff.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it, and I'm just like, oh. It was absolutely perfect, and I freaking loved them for doing it. Danny Elfman did the music for this, by the way.
Yes, and I hear they snuck in some Batman theme once in a while.
Yep.
They did the Danny Elfman Batman theme was done as little stings. The John Williams Superman theme was used in stings.
Oh, yes. Yes, I want the soundtrack of this movie then, if nothing else.
Any
The,
classic Wonder Woman?
The Wonder Woman, I think, was just basically a reuse of her movie theme from her movie.
Yeah.
They're sticking with the movie themes. That's respectable.
The Flash's music was in the style of the Flash theme from the CW.
Okay.
Cool.
It wasn't,
Okay.
but it had the same instruments, kind of doing that same effect.
Doing
I
something,
like-
it's
So,
taking
same
the similar idea
flavor,
and doing something
different
different.
variety.
Yeah.
I liked how they did the Speed Force in it.
I didn't like the effect initially, but it grew on me. The
Mhm.
Flash himself is kind of a cross between Grant Gustafson's Flash and the Peter the Quicksilver from the X-Men Days of Future Past and everything.
In the trailers, he comes off very Peter Parker-esque. Would you say he's like that in the movie?
He's very much playing the Peter Parker role. They made him pre-CSI in this,
Mhm.
which doesn't make sense with his origin
I was
story.
just saying,
but
like, yeah. So is he just chilling in the chemical room?
I'm not sure how that happened.
He's chilling in
but
his lab.
But yeah, but there's a scene where he starts taking off at speed and everything slows down, a la Days of Future Past.
Okay.
But they don't start playing Time in a Bottle.
That's a shame.
But still, and Aquaman kind of came off as brooding Thor from the middle of the Thor movie at first, but by the end of it, he's freaking Brian Blessed, King of the Hawkmen. He's just having a grand old time and chewing scenery.
Which I
That's
think
a
is the
fantastic
impression we
twist.
got from the trailers.
Yeah.
He's, I mean, that was what I was predicting when I saw it, and it's like, yeah, that's what he's doing.
So, if they ever do a Flash remake,
All in all, I liked this movie. I think I liked it better than Thor Ragnarok. It has its faults. There are a few scenes that drag a bit, but I couldn't tell because I also was really tired when I was watching this. I went home and tried to write up my review for Facebook and fell asleep writing it. That's how tired I was. Slept for 8 hours straight. That's why it didn't get posted till this morning. And Aaron, how about you?
I really liked it. I went in with like gutter expectations, basically.
you
I
wouldn't
heard
expect
so
this to
much
be
that it
garbage.
was bad, and what was that, Matt?
Wouldn't expecting it to be garbage.
Yeah, expecting it to be garbage, and yeah, I'd read like the headlines. Oh, Justice League is not making back the money that it needs, and I also heard like the whole thing with Rotten Tomatoes keeping the scores kind of a secret until the last minute, or supposedly anyway.
Oh yeah, they were because that's what Warner Bros. Asked them to do. Warner Bros. Actually owns Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
Yeah, 25%.
I'm thinking Warner Brothers didn't have a lot of faith in this movie.
Nope.
Yeah, and that's a shame because it's a brighter picture. They don't keep it as dark and colorless. There's actually color in this movie. And in fact, there's actually some color schemes that seem almost inspired by Guardians of the Galaxy, where we see like multicolored lightning and stuff like that shooting out everywhere. And of course there's the humor from from Barry Allen and from Aquaman. Aquaman, I felt, was a little bit awkward still. I don't know.
Aquaman's
a
always
little
kind of
too-
awkward. He's hard a character to work with.
He's a little too modern. He's a little too relaxed. I mean, if he had been traditional badass, if they had fully gone with the Brian Blessed, hey, instead he speaks not quite like he's in the ghetto, but like he's got a very urban way of speaking, a very advanced way, and not a classical bombastic way like I thought he was going to be doing. So
No,
I still
Aquaman's actually a
enjoyed.
very modern guy up until a point.
Yeah, I still enjoyed him, and I enjoyed a lot of them. And yeah, Batman does feel kind of off. There's the one point where Superman is like reminding him, "Hey, do you bleed?" And he's like threatening Batman. And he drops him on the ground, and Batman rolls over on his side after Superman leaves, and he's like, "Oh yeah, something's bleeding." So it's just like,
Here's a gotcha moment. Thanks for being a
So
douche to
it's
me
just-
earlier. Boof.
it didn't really feel like Batman saying that though, like what Rand had told me before, and it was just
Yeah.
like,
That sounds like more like a Bruce Wayneism.
I also really liked the Amazons, and yes, they are more scantily clad in
They
this.
did tart them up a bit. They were wearing like metal bikini style things.
But they also reminded me of female professional wrestlers too. They're kind of yes, they're scantily clad, but they're also really ripped, and
They're really ripped and they're still really badass. Okay.
And yeah, they are bad. They have moments of badass, quite a few of them. And also Wonder Woman was great too. So, and she did not feel as shoehorned in as I was afraid that she would feel. And also, apparently, there's a lot of footage missing from this movie. It was supposed to be a 3-hour
Figures.
movie, and they cut it down to 2 hours.
Yes, but I'm wondering how much of those scenes were actually just reshot.
Actually, that
Because-
was after the reshots. It was supposed to be 3 hours.
Okay. Because I was going
And then
to
they
say
were told by WB, let's not push our luck. Trim it down to 2.
And
Yeah, it's
apparently,
probably
apparently there are Zack Snyder fans making a petition to WB about it.
Mm.
Zack Schneider
Interesting.
has fans.
Sadly.
Real quick, given a choice, would I want to see Thor Ragnarok or see this movie again? And I could only see one of the two of them. They had to be those two. I might actually go see Justice League again. Yeah,
Alright.
'cause- yeah, for reasons.
All
Anyway,
right, so let's end this and let's get to the movie now that get to our review. Now that we're an hour and a half into the podcast.
We're about to roll this fast. Get ready for the punches.
5-minute challenge. Who
I'll
can
do
do
it.
this in a nutshell? Come on.
Bill said
I'll
you're
do
going to do it?
Yep.
All right. Stopwatch is ready.
All right, give me a countdown.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
The Doctor drops off Sarah Jane on Earth, and then he gets a premonition of somebody killing the president of Gallifrey. He arrives, and they immediately try to arrest him for arriving, and he leaves a note that the president is in danger. They spend an episode trying to find the Doctor while he evades them and tries to stop the killer. He fails to stop the killer, but they do eventually capture the Doctor, and they torture him for a bit. In order to stop them from just pronouncing him guilty and executing him, he declares a bid to run for president because of a law that prevents them from holding candidates for office who have not yet been judged guilty. He uses this time to investigate and try to find out who the killer is. Eventually, they find out that the killer is in the Matrix. The Doctor goes in there, and the Master and Chancellor Goth, who is the actual assassin, try to kill him, but they fail. Chancellor Goth, I believe, is killed in the struggle, and the Master is found apparently dead of natural causes. But when they investigate further, it's found that he actually faked it with a drug. The entire thing was a ploy for the Master to get a hold of some of the artifacts of Rassilon in order to basically sacrifice Gallifrey and surrounding space in order to give himself a new cycle of regenerations. He fails. the doctor stops his plan from going through, and then the doctor and the doctor is cleared of all charges, and then the doctor and the master go their separate ways off into the universe with nobody stopping either of them. I don't think I missed anything important.
Nothing important. 1 minute, 59 seconds.
Okay, good.
Damn.
That was short.
Just
All
a
right.
hair below 2.
That's why I volunteered, because I knew that the summary I had in mind was short.
All right. So, now we go to what we liked about the episode overall, and Matt, you're first.
Overall, I like that we got to see Tom Baker being extremely clever about what he's doing, because he obviously knows something's up, and he's obviously aware of there's some sort of trap in mind, and he's actually very self-aware and even seems to be smart enough about Gallifreyan rules that he can pull out something like Article 17 and protect himself while he's trying to figure out what's going down.
All right.
Just the Doctor seemed really bright on this one.
All right. Tim?
I really liked the characterization of the Master himself and how it went beyond just the scary makeup, but like this was like an interesting turn from the affable Roger Delgado to like, no, this guy is evil and filled with hatred and anger, as the Doctor himself describes. It was a very cool take, I think.
All right. Aaron?
I really, I actually did enjoy the illusory world of the Matrix. I enjoyed popping from different reality to different reality, and it did feel kind of startling. It did feel like he was in kind of a nasty dream, kind of psychedelic at some point, or trippy anyway. And I really liked certain sections, such as the airplane and whatnot.
All right.
And just, yeah. Mhm.
Bill?
I like the look into Gallifreyan society. I think
Damn
it gave a lot of really interesting kernels that they would use for future stories, such as the Invasion of Time, Trial of a Time Lord, and I think a few others. And it just really opened the door for a lot of those sorts of things.
All right. Thomas?
God, I'm trying to remember what my backup was because Aaron took mine. God. The sets actually, yes, was something that I remember liking because they were smart enough at least to know that they had like no money to work with basically. So like a lot of the lighting making it just kind of hiding what they can't do and just working with what they've got. I actually thought they did pretty well with that kind of stuff.
All right. And I'm going to pass as the two I had were taken.
Yeah.
So go to what we didn't like about the episode, and again, starting with you, Matt.
Didn't like overall. I think that some of the makeup effects in particular did not work out so well.
All right. Any example?
If I was going to give examples in particular, I'd go with I forget his name, the guy that ended up working with the Master.
Goth?
Goth. His near death makeup was like, oh, you just smeared syrup on his face. That's not really dying. And then the Master himself, just that goofy, boggly-eyed mask.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy behind it is throwing all the threatening stuff that he can, and he's doing a great job underneath there. But that mask just does not help him.
I guess it's intended, I think, to look like a Grim Reaper type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Which I
It
guess
looks like the
can be-
Grim Reaper's cousin tripping on goofballs.
Well,
Skeletor?
it's supposed to look like the skin has withered so far that the eyes are bulging.
Now I
Then
want
again, it's
someone
not
to dub
working.
over this with Skeletor's voice.
I was tempted.
Yeah,
Alright.
like
You will not stop me, Doctor!
Tim.
I felt like a lot of the tension and danger in this episode was an informed attribute. Like, oh, the Doctor is like Castellan saying, "Oh, the Doctor's in danger." Yeah, well, just because you say he's in danger doesn't mean that we feel he's in danger. And especially at the end where, oh, look, it's the Master. Where is he going? Probably somewhere in the universe. It's someone else's problem now. What's for dinner? Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is kind of the Time Lord mentality. Well, they're not on Gallifrey, so it's not our issue.
Bye-bye now, don't call.
It's just like, well, I don't think the universe is big enough for both the Doctor and the Master. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what are you going to do about it? Nothing.
Not our job. Not our job.
Not a job unless one of them starts doing something really stupid.
Aaron, how about you? What didn't you like about the serial?
Serial overall, I think I can't really think of anything, so I'm going to take a pass.
All right, Bill?
I'm probably going to say episode 1 because it just
Really?
it alternates between confusing and dragging on, and it just
That's my favorite.
really.
That's probably the best part of it before they
I
even
don't
show
know,
the Master.
It just never. I don't know. It's maybe it just never feels like any. It's like I said, either feels like it's either hops between confusing and dragging on, and I'm just. It doesn't feel like
Something's not
really
connected for you
gets
that you're not invested, essentially.
moving clear until episode 2. Yeah, after episode 2, there's a clear progression of things, but episode 1, it just always throws me off.
All right. Thomas, how about you?
Honestly, the entire thing of this is kind of a problem that we also, at least that I noticed in Arc of Infinity. The Time Lord that's supposed to be working with the evil Time Lord, in this case, the Master, Chancellor Goth, is very obviously who's behind it the entire fucking time. And it's like, what they try to kind of play it off as a surprise, and it's like, really? It's pretty clear that it's supposed to be him the whole time, but they try to.
Because he's very
kind
quick
of
to try
play
and
it
kill
off.
the Doctor, and he's also at the same time the one that helped him ease in so quickly.
Especially
Yeah.
if anybody noticed that that he was the same actor as one of the judges that was trying to have the Doctor killed a
Yeah.
few seasons earlier.
Yeah, in the
that's
war
right.
games.
I think I left out the fact that the Master intentionally broadcast the plan of the killing to the Doctor to frame him in the summary.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole, like, I was almost hoping that it was going to turn out that he was just a red herring or something, but yeah. Like, the fact that it ended up actually being him was so, like, disappointing.
And I think part of that is because they had to cut that 4th episode short, which is my issue with this, is the fact that the Matrix scene, as interesting as it was, or scenes, was entirely too long. Because if you look at it, it starts about halfway to 2/3 of the way through episode 2, and he doesn't leave the Matrix until about 1/3 of the way through episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
That means that a episode and 2/3 is spent in the Matrix of a 4-episode serial. Almost half the serial is just random fighting in the Matrix.
Yeah. All I can assume is that the director kind of went a bit nuts with that stuff, and they just kept as much in as possible and had to cut around other stuff, maybe.
They just wanted to use everything in the BBC's spare closet and props cabinet.
Yep. And here, let's
look,
throw
here's
in
a
a
bandit
random
costume.
clown.
Yep.
Yay! Yeah, it's just what the fuck. I mean, it's like the writer and the director decided to smoke some LSD or.
They had some shrooms, man, and I'm totally bad tripping.
All right, so best scene, Matt.
Best scene. Actually, I'm going to go with the scene when after the camera guy, the news reporter guy, screams, and they go upstairs to check him, and they find their first bit of evidence that's the master, and it's like, yes, yes, this is what the
dead
master's
body
been
in the
missing a
camera
bit.
roll?
The little
Yeah.
body in the camera roll, and all that, and the 9 yards. And then a few moments later, as I told the guy to go get the footage ready, all of a sudden he comes out of a doorway as they're moving to go follow him, and he's dead, and all the camera stuff is missing. Just the master is on his toes, and he's working overtime.
All right, Tim.
I thought that Tom Baker gave the performance of his life when he got his foot caught in the tracks and he was almost run over by the kiddie train.
I remember that part of that wasn't acting.
He really got his foot stuck.
Yeah. The thing is, he's in no danger.
Right.
Because they could stop that train almost any time they wanted. But if I remember correctly, he did get his foot wedged in there.
But that train didn't look very big. It was. But
And it was also
still,
fast forwarded, which added a level of silly to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was saved by Tom Baker, I think.
Yes.
So kudos to him.
Little do we know that they actually decided to film that at Little America. All right. Aaron.
All right. I'm going to say the scene in the Matrix where we see Tom Baker sucking on leaves. If you notice that, basically the master has poisoned the water supply, and the doctor, of course, because even though it's a computer simulation, is dying of thirst, and is like trying to bite back the urge to rush out there and just steal the dude's Canton. Well, it's not the master; it's the guy working for the master, and just steal the dude's Canton and drink from it. And instead, it has to hold back and suck on a couple of leaves.
I didn't notice him sucking on leaves, but I remember him drinking out of the mud.
Yeah,
Oh, like that. Yeah, like
I think
the
that's-
dude
That was probably a
was
few
taking
scenes later, yeah.
That's
like
part
the,
of it,
the
and I think-
dude's-
I think it was all just kind of improvisation on Tom Baker's part. It was because it
probably.
looked both silly and intense at the same time.
Mm.
All right, Bill.
I'm going to go with the whole. I forget who is giving the doctor the lecture about Rassilon, and they have this Time Lord mentality. They're like, well, even though there's all these stories about it, we're assuming that none of these artifacts actually do anything, and the doctor is actually
The
2
one
plus
older
2
guy.
plus 2 equals 6, and figures out the master's whole plan because of that.
The old guy that runs the machines, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Coordinator Engen, maybe?
Yeah,
Something like
something to that effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coordinator Engen. Yeah.
All right.
I just knew it was the guy in the black hat.
The
Okay.
black one, not the purplish brown one.
Thomas?
It's probably an odd choice, but I'm gonna go with the scene where Barossa is basically like they're letting him know everything that happened, and he's like, "Oh no, that's not gonna do. We're gonna have to completely just rewrite what happened." And just like spin the story some other way and all that. Like for whatever reason, like the whole kind of politicky thing of that scene, I really enjoyed.
All right. You would do that, and I'm going to go with the counterpoint to that scene, the one at the very end, when they're going out and the doctor starts
9 out of
mocking
10.
Barusa for having to rewrite all of this, and he goes off on the doctor for his, what did he say exactly? His childish...
Vulgar facetiousness, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that, and the doctor, actually acts chastened, and as he leaves, oh, and by the way, doctor, 9 out of 10. Well, oh, thank you. Grading him like he was.
I
still in
imagine
the
him
academy.
holding up a sign like it was a sporting event.
Oh no! He's grading the whole situation like it's a paper.
Right.
So in other words, as far as he's concerned, despite his obvious childishness, he thinks that the doctor did a really good job today.
Mm-hmm. A minus.
Hey, Midas, a little less killing, maybe. Just saying.
All right, so that's our favorite scenes. How about least favorite scenes? And Matt, you are first.
Least favorite scene. Oh gosh. The scenes where the masters lean over Goth and just shouting him, that literally made me want to start screaming in Skeletourisms. because again, as much as this guy is doing like 110% underneath that rubber mask, the rubber mask is not helping him, and then that particular scene is just like, you bumbling numbskulls! I can't trust any of you to do anything! You're dumber than the robots!
Okay.
Essentially.
So Matt was having Skeletor issues. Tim.
All right, I'm going to touch on something that was already brought up. I didn't like the scene where it's revealed that Goff is the master's
Pet?
his crony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simply because I was sort of taken back by saying, wait a minute, was I supposed to be guessing who that was? I mean, it's not like I'm watching Star Wars and it's like, next episode we'll reveal who the stormtrooper is. It's like, I thought he was just supposed to be some guy.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think there was going to be like this big twist.
See, I thought you were going to go with the whole element where he was like, reveal yourself. Okay, I will.
It's like,
I would
my
have
God.
loved it if he had revealed himself in the Matrix like that, and it was Goth and they killed it, but when they found the body, it was some other Time Lord.
Ah.
That would have been a twist.
That would have been interesting, yeah.
Who just made himself look like Goth because he could in the Matrix.
I just don't think it was set up very well.
Yeah, quite possibly. Aaron.
I didn't like it towards the end. I think it was episode 4, and the master's trying to lecture at the doctor, but I could barely understand what he was saying.
Trying to talk through the
Oh, that
mask.
was so frustrating.
Trying to be audible through a mask is very difficult.
Yes.
If the mask doesn't fit your lips right.
Yeah. They I think they swapped it out for the next one from a mask to actually facial makeup. Because I know he
Or a
loses
combination
the top-iness,
thereof.
and he speaks a lot clearer.
Or a combination thereof, because also I would add that every version of Davros was always a mask, but they actually form-fitted and they had it properly made for those actors. So it actually moved, and you can actually get audio. Except for one or two of them, yeah.
Or was it Destiny? One of the two they were using.
It was Destiny.
Destiny, yeah.
They were using Michael Wisher's mask and another actor.
But they still managed to use like spear gum or something to keep it on his bottom half of his face right. So they still could get audio out of him, at least. Even though it looked awkward.
Alright. Who are we on? Aaron, I think?
Aaron just finished,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was mine.
Okay. Okay, Bill, then, your least favorite scene.
I'm going to go with the very ending where they just like the master's like faces in his TARDIS and they're just like, oh well, what the fuck ever. And like after all the shit they put the doctor through, the master just gets to leave and they don't even recall his TARDIS or anything.
I'm sure they could.
Well, this is this era Time Lords where they're lazy. So not the omnipotent gods from war games or like any of the other ones we've seen previous.
Or Arc of Infinity.
Or the warlike modern ones, yeah. Who would have taken that assassination attempt with a bit more grains of salt.
Alright. Thomas, your worst scene?
Technically, Bill touched on one that I was going to say, I guess, technically, because, like, that friggin' God, that makeup for that last bit of the Master was horrendous. But, instead, I think I'll just go with, when, the Master takes, when he actually gets, like, the sash of Rassilon and that, just because it's, it's done in such a weird way that, like, for one thing, that mask to me, the mask was fine until he started getting up and moving around. It's like when he actually has to like act in scenes with other people where he's not just staring blankly into space is when is where that mask kind of goes like, what the hell? And then like he shoots the God, I've already forgotten what the title was, but he shoots the guy that's like the kind of police chief kind of character.
The Castellan.
Yeah.
Castellan, that's it. Yeah, he shoots him. The doctor basically doesn't react. Is like, okay, that happened. So what was your plan again? And then like the doctor gets shot, and he gets the thing and runs off, and it's just like, what the hell?
All right. So my least favorite scene is actually in episode 1, where Chancellor Goth orders them to transduct the TARDIS into the museum in the capital, and absolutely nobody goes, "Really, sir? We shouldn't transduct it to, say, high security lockup." They all just go, "Okay, yeah, we'll just put it right next to where they're holding the ceremony for the president." I mean, that's got to be the stupidest decision ever. I know why Goth did it, but the fact that nobody questioned it.
Yeah, no one even remotely questioned that idea.
Really just kind of ate at me this time. Okay. So that was our worst scenes. Final thoughts. Matt.
Overall, I like the story. I like the acting. It's just that some of the some minor character choices, as well as the makeup choices, really held back a lot of what was trying to go on, what was trying to be presented here. So some of the presentation didn't quite work, but otherwise, I think the rest of it worked really well.
All right, Tim.
I really liked the aesthetic of this episode, especially the cool green tones of the Emerald City. I mean, Gallifrey.
We're off to see the wizard. I mean, the president.
As well as like the bright darkness of the Matrix. But I think this episode also lacked from the lack of a companion.
Yeah, but Tom Baker was really insistent on that.
It would have just been filler anyways.
It would have been different filler.
So those are my thoughts.
All right. Aaron?
I enjoyed this one. It's of course a classic, and it was kind of interesting to see Baker acting on his own and see a lot of the world building for Gallifrey and whatnot. So I do recommend this one.
All right, Bill.
I don't really like this episode as well as its reputation. They do, it's a very experimental episode. They do interesting things with Gallifrey and the Master and even the Doctor in having a story without a companion. And I don't think any of those were horrible decisions. I just think that the story's execution was a little weak and that it's just not, that good.
All right. Thomas?
To a point, I kind of have this similar feelings to Bill in that I don't think this anywhere near necessarily lives up to the reputation it has. It's not bad. I wouldn't even say it's mediocre really. It's probably a bit bordering on in some cases, but I think overall the story as a whole holds up to a point, but going into this knowing the reputation it has, I was a bit disappointed.
All right. So, the story does break a lot of ground to the Doctor Who mythos, because it really does. It's the first episode we get that really expands on the Time Lords. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it is not the strongest script. I mean, honestly, if they had broken it down a bit, they could have done this in 2 episodes and not 4. Instead, they chose to drag the Matrix combat out for an episode and 2/3. And the plot itself was fairly predictable. The acting is all top rate, but the visual effects are a bit of a letdown. All in all, given a little bit of bonus points for what it is, I think this is a above average to good episode. I haven't quite decided yet, personally. And we'll see what the rest of you all decide with ratings. And Matt, you are first.
Oh, I would give this at least a 4.5 if it wasn't for that damn mask. That mask eats away at me every time I watch this episode, so I'm going to have to give it a 4.
4 flat from the Matt. All right. Tim, you are next.
I will go with Matt and give this a 4.
4 from Tim. Wow, it must suck.
Hey.
Hey, Tim's saying he's trying to get skeptical of his numbers.
Well, it was no time lash.
Aaron.
I'm going to break from the group and go 4.5.
Oh my.
All right.
Yes.
All right, Bill.
Aaron's our Hy-Vee.
I'm going to say a 3.
Ooh.
I just was not a
Wow.
fan of the writing, the execution, or I shared most of the complaints, and I just didn't really feel this episode that much.
Ow.
Deadly
Could be
Assassin,
worse,
Bill
it could
says
be
that you
worse.
are mediocre.
I'm gonna give this a 4.0.
All right. Well, I believe the panel has spoken because we throw out Bill's high score. We throw out Aaron's high score. We throw out Bill's low score, and with my 4, the rest of the panel says this is a 4.0 episode.
No.
It's darn good, not great.
Which is why I'm trying to figure out why this averages out to a 3.9.
Bill.
What's that?
Was Aaron a 4.5?
Yeah, but
Yes.
he threw out.
Oh.
he
That's
threw out
why,
my
because mine is more
was a
low
full
than
point
Aaron's is
lower,
high.
yeah.
If Aaron's
So you-
was a 5, it
So
would be a
you
4.0.
skew it down. Damn you for not being able to give it a 3.5.
score.
Now, Sarah Jane would have bumped this up to a 4.
Just by her presence
Or-
alone, huh?
Yes.
That would have been interesting to see Sarah Jane roaming around Gallifrey, getting into
So-
all kinds of mischief.
With a 3.4.
Also,
That-
it's now Doctor Who Anniversary Day. And
3.4, I thought it was a 3.9.
I have to
Or,
get
yeah,
up
with a
in 7
3.9.
hours
I'm
for
sorry.
work.
That was me misspeaking, not the actual rating. Deadly Assassin comes in at number 106 of 224, so just above the halfway mark.
Ouch, Bill.
Screw you, Bill.
Everybody hate Bill.
We all hate you, Bill. Go die in a fire.
We don't have a problem with Tim today. Today we have a problem with Bill.
No one has a problem with Tim ever.
Imagine if I had
Yeah,
given
that's
it
the
a
problem. No one has a problem with me. Is the
No,
problem.
Tim, you were right on the money.
Yeah, you were
Imagine
right
if
on the
I
money
had
this
given it a
week.
below average rating.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's freaking Bill that's being the freaking critical hard
Negative
ass.
Nancy.
I can't even say it was this time because the last time I watched the episode, I felt the same way. So
So it
I
is
don't
on
know what your
par
disconnect is.
with Knock Knock, Brain of Morbius, Colony in Space, Warrior's Gate, Revenge of the Slovene, Into the Dalek, Technophobia, Blink, Monster of Peladon, The Next Doctor, The Chase, Gardens of the Dead, and the Jago Lightfoot Revival. It is better than Boomtown, Ghostlight, Enemy of the World, Girl in the Fireplace, Daleks Invasion, Earth 2150, End of the World, etc. And it is not as good as Vengeance on Varos, Attack of the Cybermen, The Runaway Bride, A Good Man Goes to War, Trial of the Valiard, Terminus, Everything Changes, Heaven Sent, etc. So 106 out of 224. That's all we have to say about the Deadly Assassin, other than Bill needs to be kicked in the dick.
Time lash.
It could have broke 100 if he hadn't been such a negative Nancy.
Easily.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, time to take us out, Bill.
All right, so if you enjoy listening to us and people threatening me with physical violence,
Kill
please
him.
like and share the video and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. You can also follow us and join our Facebook group. We're on facebook.com/unearthlypodcast and twitter.com/unearthlypod. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast.
All right, so next week we go from the middle of Tom Baker's run to the very end of his run with a trip to Traken and the meeting with the Melker in The Keeper of Traken, written by Johnny Byrne and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, Matthew Waterhouse as Adric, and introducing Sarah Sutton as Nyssa and Jeffrey Beavers as the Master.
Cool.
And JR Token.
And see you next week.
Bye-bye.
See you next week if we're not burning Bill in an effigy with the Master's ugly mask on it.
Anybody
Happy
got a match?
Put him in the Wicker Man.
No!
Yeah.
Poor Wicker Man.